I'm right about something, I'm right about something. I have figured out and I have absolutely nailed. I'm not bragging. Don't think I'm bragging. But I see things for what they are. And I can see trends. Haley, whatever husband, can see dead people. And I can see trends. I can see movements. I can see ochlocracies and murmurations. And I can see Gustave Le Bon. And I can see crowds. And I can see movements and trends and fads and changes. And I can also see when the movement, a fad and a trend collapse. And what I've been saying for the longest time is that Candace Owens is bigger than anything you can imagine. And I hope to God she never for a moment enters politics, falls into that trap. Candace, I'm telling you, I will personally move in a court of competent jurisdiction, in some tribunal of sorts in the Tennessee area, to have you committed against your will for observation and confinement in a mental institution if you so much as even insinuate an interest in running for office, because it will you don't make change in office. You make catastrophe and calamity. Government is not for improvement today. Nobody fixes anything today. You go in and say, what disaster can you bring? What cacophony, what cataclysm can you bring? Nobody fixes anything. Government is a mess. It's like walking into a bar fight and trying to see, well, let me see if I can control this quadrant of the firestorm. I don't even know what the hell that meant, but it sounded good. But something is happening, something extraordinary, something remarkable, something beyond anything anybody can imagine. And it's happening inside what the left calls the conservative movement. She has her own movement. She's like time space. She's this new dimension. It's different. But just for purposes of this disquisition, I will provide you with a shorthand. We'll call it the conservative movement. I'll just do it. But something's happening in the conservative movement. And almost nobody wants to say it out loud except me and the millions of Candace Owens acolytes and supporters, maybe minions, maybe fans, maybe whatever you want to call it. But I will say what I have been saying forever. The political earthquake may not come from the Democrats. You realize, do you not? The Democrats are like antimatter. They're not, it's not what the Democrats support, it's what they do to either not support. They're into pronouns and they're the antimatter. But it's not going to come from them. It's not going to come from legacy media. It's not going to come from the institutional prototypical left. And it may also come from, again, wrong term, but I'm going to use their term, from inside MAGA. Now, MAGA does not exist. MAGA was big in 2016. There ain't no MAGA no more. There are a lot of people saying, okay, the Trump movement in 2016, 2020 was, yeah! Now it's, okay, all right, interesting, all right. Okay, you don't feel it. The MAGA, that maelstrom, that tsunami, it's not there. But for years, the Republican establishment assumed the future after Trump, post-Trump, would naturally fall into place. Maybe J.D. Vance, who was, Peter Thiel's boy toy, Palantir, robot, J.D. Vance. Maybe Marco Rubio, who doesn't have a fraud, will not hold up. Believe me, he should be happy where he is right now. I mean, maybe somebody figures maybe there's some polished governor out there. Might always put your money on somebody you don't know. Governors are great because they know how to run administrations. Very, very good. Ron DeSantis, nah, don't even think about it. But you need somebody with donor backing, and of course, your prototypical Fox News approval. And remember this, I'm telling you. Remember, we saw with Massey and we saw with others. Getting the Fox News approval will be, sooner than you think, a sign that you are a dinosaur. You are anachronistic, okay? But the grassroots space, that's important, is increasingly showing very loud signs of something very, very different. There is a growing anger over foreign policy, anger over the abandonment of America first, and a post-October the 7th anger towards America's connection with Israel. And up till now, it was almost this patellar reflex. You said that and you were anti-Semite. People just stayed away from it. And finally people said, for the last time, I'm not talking about Judaism. I'm not going to talk about Jewish people. I'm talking about our country. The same way we talk about Ukraine or Russia. We're not Russophobes. It doesn't work anymore. That patellar Pavlovian connection has been cut, severed. It doesn't work anymore. It's done. You ran it into the ground. We've habituated and conditioned to it. It doesn't mean anything. But people are sick over this foreign policy. And we're sick over this distrust towards institutional conservatism or whatever it was, whatever this thing was. I don't even know what it was. It's not. Reagan would hate this. The neocons would like part of it, but remember, this is not neoconservatism. This is war profiteering. This is a different story. This is Victoria Nuland time. This is different. It's even Zbigniew Brzezinski would have a hard time with this. It does calling it always, this idea that somehow anything pro-war is neoconservatism, Straussian, that's the wrong term. Well, whatever you want. It's exhaustion. It's exhaustion with what a lot of people, a lot of Americans and supporters see as carefully managed political theater and choreographed dreck, this kabuki nonsense. And into that vault, into that chaos, into that abyss steps one of the most wonderfully polarizing figures in American media today, polarizing only because she recognizes that there are poles. She understands that which is antipodal. She understands the syzygy. And that is Candace Owens, CO. And you've heard of AIPAC? Well, this is COPAC. This is the Candace Owens Political Action Committee. And whether people love her, hate her, whatever it is, nobody is indifferent about her. And that's the critical thing. See, that's the most important. You never want this. That'll kill you. The establishment is absolutely, positively terrified, mortified by the possibility that she may represent something deeper and more significant than just another influencer. And according to a bunch of folks, a bunch of these observers, the donor folks, the members of the parties, the party big shots, focus groups are now repeatedly producing, mentioning, and offering her name as a possible successor to what they still call Trump's MAGA movement. Okay, whatever it was. Again, it's not that, but go ahead and call it if you want. That alone would have sounded to some people absurd a few years ago. And maybe because she wasn't who she was till recently. Because September the 10th of last year changed everything. October the 7th, September the 10th, the dispatch of Charlie Kirk. Candace Owens was once viewed by some people as a charismatic, attractive, smart media personality, as she was and is, not as a serious political force. But politics in America no longer works the way it once did. You see, television personalities become governors. Anybody remember that guy? What's his name? Oh, yeah, Ronald Reagan. Remember him? Remember Bedtime for Bonzo? Remember him? Remember him? Reality stars become presidents. Podcasters command more loyalty than senators. Podcasters command more audience than all of the late night folks put together. And the line that separates entertainer from activist, from political leader, has almost completely disappeared or has been erased deliberately. The Maginot Line, the blood-brain barrier, the firewall, gone. And Candace Owens understands this new environment better than most people in D.C. And if you ever want to meet a bunch of people, and I'm saying this, listen to what I'm saying, I know what I'm talking about. If ever you want to go and see your dreams dashed, your hopes crushed, if ever you want to see this clogged toilet, have you ever been to some god-awful, horrible restroom on the turnpike and you pull into some old Sunoco and all they've got is this, they give you this engine block with a key on it, and you go in there, and this toilet is a color you've never seen before, filled with... That's what Washington is. It's a waste of time. Bullshit artists, four-flushers, people who absolutely have nothing to do with you, representative anything. But what makes this especially explosive is the timing of this. Charlie Kirk's dispatch, his elimination, his expurgation, his ablation from reality, on September the 10th of last year, shattered one of the central pillars of what was thought of the modern conservative youth movement. Charlie Kirk was not merely a commentator. He was the architect of an entire, and I'm going to use this word, I hate to use it, an ecosystem through Turning Point USA, which, by the way, is about to dissolve before your very eyes. Watch some of my other commentaries. You'll see what I'm talking about. But Charlie Kirk represented youthful, positive, conservative energy, donor confidence, grassroots infrastructure, all wrapped up into this perfect machine. And his death, not by the person charged, let me make that clear, not by the patsy Tyler Robinson, but others will discuss that watch the other videos. But his death created a vacuum that still has not been fully resolved. And into that vacuum steps Erica Kirk, followed by internal leadership battles from this maundering, this twit, and now growing scrutiny over the organization's image and structure and chapter claims and credibility. And at the same time, Candace Owens has elevated herself to an apotheosis, a beatification, a fixture status unseen. Candace Owens transformed herself from former TPUSA firebrand into something much more dangerous to the establishment, much more frightening, much more potent, an independent populist broadcaster who knows how to communicate and is loved. Did I mention that? Loved, not liked, loved. Remember when Trump was at his prime? They loved this guy. They wanted, even the people who hated him loved him. He got into your soul. He was like buttermilk. Either you went, "Pah," or yeah. And that's what you want. Remember, never, no. God love him. I call it the Pataki effect. George Pataki, ex-governor, former governor of New York, great guy. And people say, was he good? Yeah. Nobody didn't like him. But nobody loved him. It was gay. It was politically safe, but that's not what you want. Not for national politics. You want, yeah. This is a broadcaster willing to attack almost anyone, including Donald Trump himself. Candace Owens has cojones, elephantine huevos, gargantuan, elephantiasis, wheelbarrows. She is, her spine, her guts, she'll take on anybody. And that shift, by the way, that I just discussed matters enormously because for years, the conservative movement, or what people call the conservative movement, functioned through, I guess, a relatively kind of a disciplined hierarchy. Trump was at the top, major media allies amplifying the message, influencer personalities supporting the broader project, but not anymore. Now this system, okay, all right, the ecosystem, I hate that word, but anyway, the ecosystem is fragmenting into competing tribes. America first anti-interventionists. Next, Israel skeptics, establishment Republicans. What? Libertarian populists, nationalist influencers, independent media creators, proto-meta-libertarian, and a new powerful group that Reagan couldn't do. This is a fundamental, this is a religious Catholic, Candace being very, very proudly Catholic. And I don't mean the cafeteria Catholic. I mean, she's into like what I remember in the 60s. Holy Days of Obligation. I mean, the confirmation, she's into it. And people, which is what Charlie did. Charlie, maybe not the Catholicism, but this idea of being proudly an adherent to not this squishy religion, but the fundamentals. Oh, she's got it. And the old control mechanisms are threadbare. Candace Owens' rise reflects the aforementioned collapse. People are commenting. People have tried their best to call her a conspiracy theorist. Throw in conspiracy theorist into the anti-Semitic graveyard. The word doesn't mean anything anymore. It doesn't mean anything. It's been used. You can't. It's like the reason why we don't say groovy or bee's knees or cat's meow. It runs out. It loses whatever import, verb, relevance. It doesn't. It's stupid. Like Gore Vidal said beautifully, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm a conspiracy analyst. Everything's a conspiracy. My God! Conspiracy, from the Latin conspirare, to breathe with. It's organizational. Doesn't mean crazy. And this notion, this idea, I mean, this has gained a lot of traction among a lot of MAGA people. They're very or unstable. They used to believe this stuff. But dismissive labeling that they use, this is what they do. Well, she's a conspiracy theorist. She's a tinfoil hatter. It misses the real story completely. Candace Owens, listen to me, resonates with many voters because she speaks the language of distrust, earned distrust, and she questions narratives aggressively. She challenges institutional authority constantly. And perhaps most importantly, she sounds, and this is important, emotionally and intellectually authentic. Authentic to audiences who are increasingly convinced that every major organization in America, no matter what it is lying to them. They're sick of it. And that emotional connection, plus they love her, is far more powerful, listen to me, than most establishment consultants could ever realize. The comments from people are interesting. Kind of like the, listen to what the left is saying. Read them. The focus grouping. Some people say that Owens is well-grounded. Some people praise her investigative instinct. Oh, my God. By the way, her investigative prowess and wherewithal, the deep divers, as well as her team and cadre of such that she has inspired. Let me tell you something. She investigated stuff about Erica Kirk and her mother, Lori Franz, that they didn't know. Then again, it's not tough to find too many things that Erica Kirk doesn't know because she doesn't know a lot. Anyway, but I want you to notice something that's very important here. Listen to me very carefully. These voters are not necessarily agreeing with every theory or every controversy or every whatever it is. What they are responding to is the perception, the belief that Candace Owens is willing to go places other figures are afraid to touch. Ballsy, gutsy, intrepid. That's it. She's exciting. And in modern populist politics, whatever the hell that means, the willingness alone to do that creates enormous credibility, I submit, through authenticity. Now, obviously there are liabilities that they say, and they're going to give you this regarding Candace. You got to address these. Even some Trump, voters reportedly described her post-Charlie Kirk commentaries as spiraling into wild stuff, which is the only stuff for me to, if it ain't wild, what the hell's the point? It's like, who is it? Robert Moses says, if the end doesn't justify the means, what does? Her feud with Brigitte Macron triggered international lawsuits and major backlash. I guess. I don't know a lot of people. There's a lot of people, and I don't want to get into that because I'm not expert enough, but a lot of people are saying, okay. Look, there's some stuff out there that a lot of people think that you may be surprised. I don't think if you're watching it. There's a lot of people who say, Brigitte Macron, good, just like, and I'm not bringing this up, please, but there are a lot of folks since the days of Joan Rivers, when you mention Michelle Obama, they go, more than you will ever realize. President Trump himself reportedly called her, listen to this, an extremely low IQ individual. Oh, along with Tucker Carlson, and that she's a loser because he can't get on TV. Along with Alex Jones, Tucker, Megyn Kelly, and other, right? Donald Trump, as we say in West Ham, Mishkiro. He still thinks that getting on Fox News is... She also now has incurred the wrath, oh, by the way, this is good, of Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer, who I think is, who attacks her relentlessly, which is great. If you're going to have somebody attack you, Laura Loomer's the best. It's almost like an endorsement. And by the way, she, according to some people, some suggest that maybe Candace has alienated major segments of institutional conservatism. Who cares? Again, say no more. That'll be her first line. Hello. And please, I hope she doesn't. She's not running. Please, God. No. We're just talking theoretically. Because she could say, hi, I'm Candace Owens, and I've alienated institutional conservatism. Got my vote. See, people still don't know that that's good. But strangely enough, those conflicts that I've talked about are what's going to strengthen her standing among big parts, big contingents, big throngs and swaths of the populist base. Why, do you ask? That's a good question, Sparky. I'll tell you why. Because voters today, a bunch of voters, don't trust the gatekeepers at all. The more aggressively and the more passionately establishment figures condemn someone, the more certain a lot of us become that the person being threatening is must be threatening something important. And that psychological shift is now absolutely, positively, deeply embedded inside modern populist politics, if for no other better word. It explains why there are attempts to deplatform or isolate controversial figures, often, and how that often backfires spectacularly. Candace Owens also benefits from another massive transformation happening in American politics today: the collapse of legacy media authority and influence. 20 years ago, political power flowed primarily through newspapers, television networks, party structures. Today, influence increasingly flows through podcasts, live streams, social media feeds, and direct audience connection and relationships. And Candace Owens commands millions, 5, 6 million, through the roof. But not only just numbers, because numbers can be misleading. Look, there are some Indian teenagers in parts of the country or the world that get like 20 million people. She unboxes, a curling iron. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this passion. She speaks directly to audiences. She speaks directly to their heart, to their soul, without requiring any kind of institutional permission. She doesn't need permission. And that independence makes her deadly and unpredictable and difficult, if not impossible, to control. And that's the bottom line. And that unpredictability terrifies political systems. Terrifies them. Because this is the first night. They don't know what to do. And when Tucker Carlson, he's not leaning there, but he'll be next. But she's even more popular than he is. And what is especially interesting is how this connects to the growing identity crisis inside certain circles that people still call MAGA. Okay, that movement that once rallied around Trump now appears increasingly, seriously divided. Or there, but not as passionate. Divided over what? Foreign policy, war, donor influence, and the role of America globally. J.D. Vance reportedly positioned himself as the administration's leading war skeptic. You could have fooled me, but that was the idea. Tucker Carlson continues pushing anti-interventionist rhetoric. Thomas Massie, by the way, don't rule him out. Thomas Massie represents another populist libertarian lane, if you will. Candace Owens fits naturally into that anti-establishment list, that group, that, ecosystem. She taps into the emotional suspicion that a lot of populist conservatives now feel toward institutional, prototypical Republicans, who they believe, by the way, have become too intertwined and interconnected and intertwined with corporate donors and foreign policy, kind of rubber stamping all this stuff. And carefully scripted media folks. Put it this way, when you can't tell the difference between Jasmine Crockett and Lindsey Graham, we got a problem. Houston, we got a problem. And that is why the TPUSA controversy matters like you can't believe. You see, the growing questions, serious questions surrounding TPUSA's legitimacy, chapter numbers, chapter influence, impact, penetration, and this organizational transparency are not just isolated scandals. No. They are symptoms of, I think, a much broader breakdown in trust. And a new documentary, which I mentioned before, from progressive activists, recently alleged that many TPUSA chapters may function more as paper listings, theoretical chapters than genuine organizations. And a lot of folks found schools reportedly describing groups as inactive, dissolved, or never formally recognized. Former, insiders or members allegedly described impossible quotas, superficial signups that were designed to project, unstoppable exponential growth. Well, that's done. Again, my dear friends, none of that is conclusively proves systemic fraud. We never said it did, but perception matters. And once supporters become questioning whether large conservative organizations and groups are exaggerating metrics or managing narratives, skepticism spreads rapidly through the entire movement. Candace Owens thrives in that atmosphere. I'm not going to say ecosystem, but that atmosphere. Because her brand and her message and her visage is built around questioning everything. And an authenticity you can't beat. Whether one agrees with her or not becomes secondary. Candace Owens, listen to me, embodies distrust itself. She reflects the skepticism that we have. And that may sound dangerous, but politically, it can be incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful in an era where institutional confidence and acceptance has collapsed across every sector of society. Government, media, academia, corporations, nonprofits, intel agencies. Public faith in virtually every major structure is collapsing and deteriorating simultaneously. And the old establishment response has been to dismiss skeptics as extremists, conspiracists. People who are anti-Semitic, who are destabilizing, extremists, white nationalists, whatever the hell it is. But that strategy increasingly falls short. It fails. Why? Because millions of Americans now instinctively distrust the people doing the dismissing. And this, my friend, this is where the Republican establishment may be fundamentally misunderstanding the moment. They still think politics operates primarily through endorsements and donor networks and institutional loyalty, but the grassroots base increasingly responds to emotional authenticity, anti-system energy, and perceived independence from a kind of a centralized control. And that is why someone like Candace Owens can suddenly appear viable despite enormous controversy. Now, does that mean she will actually run for president? I hope not. Does it mean she could win? Yeah. But too early to tell. But America has never elected a female president, and Owens remains deeply polarizing, even within conservative circles, and that's fine. They're going to say she lacks executive experience. She lacks institutional alliances and broad establishment support. If you ask me, that's a plus. Her controversies would become nuclear under presidential level scrutiny, some would say. But that may not even be the real story. That's not it. You see, the real story is what her rise reveals about the state of the movement itself. A decade ago, Republican voters likely would have gravitated towards polished governors and senators or military figures as future leaders. Today many grassroots conservatives seem more interested in media insurgents and independent broadcasters and anti-establishment personalities. Listen to what I'm saying, my friends. Put this aside. Give it some chance. Let it ruminate. Let it marinate. I'm telling you. I am telling you. Watch. Please like this video. Subscribe to my channel. Hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. And I've got some questions for you to ask. This is very, very simple, my friend. Very critical. I want you to comment as you see fit.